Good morning and welcome to my channel. Today I am sharing a beautiful little velvet covered journal using one of Sheila's velvet bundles that is called Tea Garden, I believe. It is a very soft blush, but is a little bit more towards the peachy side than the bluey pink side. So I've stitched all around the outside of the covers, of course, and I've got some beautiful vintage buttons down the spine. Leave the back plain. I just can't bear to cover up the velvet any more than I have to. I absolutely love it. This is a single signature journal, and I've got some very long dangles from the middle of the signature in the center. I just absolutely love them. And then these little butterfly beads match the butterfly vintage pendant that I have attached to the front. This stick pin is also made by Sheila from Boho Daydreams, if you want to check out her things that she has available. And the Sari Silk crinkled ribbon is also from the same bundle as the velvet. So let's go inside. I've got some Battenberg lace doilies on the top. This one is in an ecru color. And then this one is a vintage to an antique doily. I'm not exactly sure what it's made of, but it's absolutely beautiful. And then a crocheted doily just layered up on the top there. And this is a pocket, so you can slide anything in and out of here that you would like. I've chosen to use some of Sheila's mirrored bling and vintage wallpaper, backed it onto parchment paper, and topped it with some Sari silk. So you can write on the back of that if you choose. And inside we have lots of beautiful yumminess. See, I can come down a little bit maybe. One of these sweet little booklets that I've made using some digitals, some crinkled seam binding, threaded through the lace-edged punched paper, of course vintage buttons, and I use the shank buttons so that you can thread the seam binding through very easily. And I've got vintage lace sewn on underneath the image, and just some random papers and extra space for journaling that can be used. So that would go here. And this is actually a sister journal to the one I just finished from my sister-in-law, Ruth. And she's on vacation right now, so hopefully she will receive it and open it when she comes back. And then I'll be able to release that video and this one as well. I've used mostly digitals from Raindrop Lila, and I think the kit is called Peachy. I've also used some angels and a few other digitals, I think maybe from Chapter 1 papers, maybe from Odocina Anne. Those seem to be my current favorites. Lots of beautiful vintage lace and appliques. It says pearls and sequins. Just a little tuck spot with some fussy cut flowers. One of the tags backed onto pink parchment paper, and a little booklet. Of course, I've got some stamping throughout, and I used my rose stamps that I have. A little bit of Renaissance flair here, and some vintage lace applique on the side of the page. I love to stagger the pages in the journal. Just gives them a beautiful effect. Some vintage lace here, a tag made from some vintage wallpaper, vintage lace, vintage buttons, some pearls, and a sweet little image. Pretty sure that is Raindrop Lilac. Backed onto parchment paper for extra journaling space. And some lovely tea-dyed netted lace on the side of this page. Got another tag that I've made using vintage wallpaper, a sweet little butterfly charm and bulb pin, and some point d'esprit netting or Swiss dot. Some antique French lace that I have ruched up the side, and an antique or vintage applique. This particular vintage wallpaper is felted, so it's raised. It's so beautiful to touch. Parchment paper on the back for extra journaling space. And we've just got a little flap here with some beautiful vintage lace. I think this is, I'm not sure if it's Venice lace, but it feels very much like Venice lace. Another tag backed onto pink parchment paper. And this is the paper cameo from her Bella collection. Some tea-dyed vintage lace on this side. And another tag made from vintage wallpaper, some of Sheila's embellished embroidered trims, and sari silk at the top, backed onto parchment paper. And a pretty little blingy charm attached to the paper clip at the top of the page. Some Edith Holden book page. And we've got a tag made from Edith Holden as well. 2 in a row, I guess. And just some beautiful antique French lace tying up the topper there with extra space for journaling on the back of the parchment paper. And some pink parchment paper. I love this digital so much. It's so beautiful. Some charms and pearls, little dangles there. Here I have a tag, one of my favorites from Ruth's journal. I've got some embossed scrapbooking paper, vintage lace, vintage velvet curtain, some rosebud vintage trim, and parchment paper on the back. And of course, some beautiful, beautiful antique to French, or sorry, vintage to antique lace. I'm never quite sure with some of them exactly what they are, but this one I believe was antique. Some lined journal paper, gorgeous, gorgeous corded lace here on the side. I love the way it hangs over when it's scalloped like that. Journaling card made out of some lined planner paper that I tea-dyed, blush colored vintage lace, and some rosebud trim. An image from the paper cameo, some French book page, and the crinkled seam binding with some vintage buttons. And the stamping at the bottom. Another lovely digital. Some blush colored vintage lace on this side. Adds a nice veiled effect so you can see the ephemera inside. Fussy cut flower, that's Anne, Old Lucina Anne. Some antique French lace, vintage buttons, vintage book paper, and sheet music here. Backed onto parchment paper, and that just gets tucked in here. Some Bible page, and here we've got an angel and an angel fussy cut on this side of the vintage music paper. Some lined journaling paper, and then here we've got one of my favorite laces with the roses on it. Another journaling tag made out of the felted vintage wallpaper. Sweet little image from the kit from Raindrop Lila. Some vintage lace applique and some netting and a sweet little charm that says made with love. Backed onto your parchment paper and just tucked on that side of the page. Another image from the Bella collection of paper cameo. I love this lace. It's just so beautiful. This is some vintage book page and just a collage of a fussy cut flower in a teacup, and some coffee dyed paper that has gold paint flecks on it. This beautiful vintage doily that I've attached in the center of the signature. What I'm learning to do is do them slightly off. Don't do them right dead center, because otherwise I'm trying to stitch the waxed linen thread right through some of the thickest part, and it's just too difficult to try and sew through. At least for myself it is. So that's why if you're looking at it closely, it's still centered, but it's slightly more to the one side. Here's a little closer look at these dangles. Got some of these beads on Vancouver Island at this bead store that I love to go to when I used to visit my mother-in-law while she lived there. Another fussy cut angel. And some lace that I have tea-dyed. Some pearl dangles on the side. You can also use this for a tuck spot, of course. And another one of these vintage ladies images from Ruby and Pearl with the parchment paper on the back for extra journaling space. And some more of this beautiful peach-colored, light peach-colored vintage lace. That one is Venice lace. And a fussy cut rose, bottom of that music page. An envelope that I put together from the kit, and just included some vintage book page or sheet music in here that can be written on, or tuck some of your special personal messages in if you'd like. Beautiful Venice lace on the side, one of my favorites. And a journaling card or a tag that can be written on, just using some vintage book page, and some of the floral images from the kit, the Peachy Kit by Raindrop Lila. This is some of Lorna Taylor's digitals. I have so many of hers. I think this is still part of the wool dyeing notes, that kit. Some line journaling paper on this side, and here we've got a bulb pin with a little dragonfly charm. This is artisan paper. It does look like vintage wallpaper, so I thought it coordinated with the other tags that I made. A beautiful image from Ruby and Pearl, and some vintage gold-colored lace. The other side of this veiled page with the antique lace pocket. And I like to leave it just over the edge here a little bit. Just adds to the character of the side of the journal. Some pink parchment paper, sweet little charm with a rosebud and a little dangle on it. Some beautiful vintage lace. Edith Holden book page. This is an antique motif applique. Some stamping on that side. And we've got a little booklet straddling the page side here. This is from a kit that I've used so many times. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I've used it in several of my blue journals, if you're keen to find out which one that is. It's Paris Fashion Ladies, that's what it is. And some extra writing space. This little flap folds out, and we've got a long tag for some extra journaling space if you'd like. This is an embellished paper clip. It's just the right and the left side of a rose that I have fussy cut, digital image, and put the paper clip inside. These tend to stay on a little bit better than our ordinary paper clips because they've got the reinforced two-sided paper there. Some beautiful fibers up at the top, if you can see them. Some Prima paper from their Tales of You and Me collection. Some beautiful satin ribbon through this vintage piece of lace. The other side of the Renaissance digital kit. And then I've just got two tags, a fussy cut flower tucked into this beautiful blush colored lace piece that's hanging down from the bottom of this little flap. And another image of some angels. You can write whatever you'd like on this. And just some beautiful embellished lace here. On this side I've got a booklet that I've made with some stamping and beautiful image from Ruby and Pearl. Some buttons dangling down off of the embroidery floss. And then just included a few tuck spots for extra journaling. You could just take this small booklet with you and fill it up. My business card, vintage elegance inspiration, some stamping, and another tuck spot. And that is this journal. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I probably will have that detailed in the description. when I publish this video. So I thank you for watching. I hope you like this journal. It will be available at our retreat in Vermont in April for those that are attending there if you're interested. I hope you like this. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.